Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, because they just can't stretch the dollar any further, and they're already, like, you just hear, "Oh, my rent's gone up," and it's not just by $10, $20, it's gone up, like
Yeah,
a
sometimes
substantial
hundreds a
amount.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So they don't have these leftover, amount of money to be able to buy, just the simple things that we take for granted.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Tanya. It's great to have you here. This episode's a little bit different for us. We normally have a guest that comes and speaks about, wealth creation or finances, something to do with that. But I thought leading into Christmas, it'd be a good time to change the pace a little. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Kids4Kids and what you do?
Yeah, thank you. Well, the Kids4Kids Foundation, it started 9 years ago. And what we do is we give school supplies to families in need. And we also do some youth programs. So we've got a youth group, and we run some different programs through the year to help, empower our students and young people
Yeah,
also.
awesome. And
Yeah.
I think getting the school supplies for kids, one of the reasons we happily support your charities because it's a cause you can get behind.
Yeah.
There's no, I guess, vagueness to it in the way like sometimes you hear about cancer research, and I'm sure there's good stuff happening there, but I don't really necessarily understand what's happening if I'm donating to that cause.
Yes.
Whereas, if we're helping kids get school supplies so they can, get educated, that's, I can get behind that. I think anyone can really.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, from conversations that we've had, you and I both grew up in a situation that we would have been those children to need some support and some help. So, and knowing that 1 in 6 children are actually living below the poverty line,
Yeah, wow.
it gives you perspective on, the need that's out there.
Yeah, and it's, well, 1 in 6 is surprising
Yeah,
to me. I didn't realize it was that common, and it is, again, from personal experience, knowing, being a young person in that situation, doesn't seem like it would be that critical not having the right books or the right uniform or the right stuff to go to school,
yeah,
but it really not having that stuff really makes you stand out.
it
And
does.
as a young person, when you're trying to sort of, work out who you are and, practice those social skills, standing out as the poor kid in the
Yeah.
school and that being extremely obvious isn't necessarily the best place to start.
No, that's right, and it also affects them, like, so they don't wanna go to school
Yeah.
because they don't feel like they belong, and, just giving them their own things gives them that sense of belonging and the confidence to be able to go to school and feel like they're like the other kids.
Yeah, and I definitely experienced that. Like, go to pack your bag, oh, the uniforms, I don't have a uniform's dirty.
Yeah.
I don't have the stuff I need to go. It's like, oh, it's probably easier just to stay home and not have to go through all this
Yeah.
agony and embarrassment.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
right, and, it wasn't until Sam and I, my son and I, we started when he was young, so,
Yeah.
it wasn't until the very first fundraiser that he did with collecting school supplies, and we talked to one of the chaplains, and she said just at her school, a local school here, had 50 children on the first day. So I was shocked. I didn't realize there were so many kids
Yeah.
going without.
We
It's
actually
phenomenal. It's like one of those things that you're sort of not aware it exists until you sort of are exposed to it. So take us back to when it all sort of formed. What's the story behind it? Was it a particular moment where you went, this is a problem, we want to do something about it? Like, how did
Yeah,
it form? When,
well,
where did the idea
it
start?
actually formed. It was nothing to do with me, but with my son Sam. So, I did share a story about myself growing up. It was Christmas time. It was this time of year, and I actually shared with him that, not every child at Christmas, gets the same opportunities that he does. So, for example, Christmas time was one of those ones that sat with me. Like it was just my mum and I, presents, it was, you know, it was hard for my mum to buy gifts when she was just surviving herself.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had a little talk to him and about, we got food from the Salvation Army. The table we ate off was from the Salvation Army. And anyway, I found him emptying his piggy box in the bedroom. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I want to buy food for a family in need." And he had been doing some little fundraisers. So that was his thing. So other kids had Lego. Sam had little fundraisers he was doing for the homeless and doing
Right.
photography and selling calendars for Cancer Council and things like that. So I said, "Okay." So we heard of Lighthouse Care, which is local to here. And he went and bought a trolley of food for a family in need. And we went to the mum's place, and unfortunately, she'd been affected by DV. So she had a broken collarbone when we turned up. And there was two boys. We saw a small little Christmas tree in the corner. And it's a moment that both of us have never forgotten. And sits with us still to this day. They didn't have food, and she was quite a broken person herself. And the two kids were just so grateful for some food. And they were sleeping on the floor. So he had a little fundraiser page. So we did a call out. We got some food. We got some presents for them at Christmas. People donated the beds, and the community was just, rallied around supporting these people as well, which was just amazing to see. And then come to January, Sam was going through his leftover school supplies, and I was working out what he needed for school. And he had a whole bunch of leftovers from his grades. And he said, "Well, what if we collect these and give them to, children like the two boys that he'd met?" And I said, "Oh, okay." I hadn't even thought, about the leftovers.
Yeah.
And so it started from there. He said, "Oh, can I do a video on my page?" So here he is, 9-year-old Sam, doing a video on his page asking, if anyone in the community had leftover school supplies. And we got 4,000 school supplies that first year. And we supported 2 schools, which was just incredible. And that's when Sam had this conversation with the chaplain, and we found out there was actually quite a big need for this. So it developed from there, and then the year after that, it grew bigger and bigger. And so we were like collecting 20,000 school supplies, just Sam and I, and we had little the election boxes that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the kids had painted the election boxes. They were his donation boxes we'd put out in the community at businesses. And so started to collect lots of recycled and good secondhand school supplies.
I think
So
that's
yeah,
incredible. And particularly on the origin, like that's sometimes the genius with kids, right? Is they say the obvious and intelligent thing that everyone else overlooks.
yeah,
Like it's a great idea, and then look at what it started from, and look at how much people it's helping today.
absolutely.
I know I see that sometimes with my daughter. They sometimes they just come out with things, and they ask you a question, how does this work, or why don't we do this, and you're like, I don't know.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
It's like they're a little bit wiser than us at
Yeah.
times, and their little innocent, questions and stuff makes you, you double check in with yourself and go, "Oh, I hadn't sort of looked at things that way." So I would never have even looked at that or thought that there was a problem. Like, I did not know it was such a big problem locally. And then, going further and meeting the families and seeing what's happening right
Yeah.
now. It's
Is it something that
widespread.
is widespread, or is
It
there
is.
a high concentration because we're in Logan? That's obviously where that's our home. And is there more concentration of it here, or?
Yeah, no, it's definitely widespread.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of people locally that we support because we've been going for 9 years.
Yeah.
So it got to a point when Sam and I sort of reached our peak, we had given out 100,000 school supplies, and there was 13 local schools that, on average, we probably gave to every primary school in Logan.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was just the next year, some of the chaplains that we gave to had some leftovers and stuff. So, but yeah, it was getting to the point where we went, this is continuous,
Yeah.
and it's bigger than us.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's a pretty phenomenal stat when you sit there and think about it. 1 in 6
Yeah.
families are affected by this. And like, I think for myself personally, I look at it and I go, Christmas time is, I've got rosy colored glasses on. I'm going, I can't wait to catch up with the family, share a meal, talk about the year in a whole.
Yeah.
And then you don't think about, I guess, the families, or you're a bit naive, and I guess your own little bubble of the families that may be struggling week to week. And
Correct.
then Christmas is another, a daunting date or a
Yeah.
deadline that's approaching on top of what else is going on
Rather than something to
in the
look forward
families.
to,
Yeah.
it's a more stressful
It's
period.
daunting for them.
What-
Yeah.
What's for people who are in more fortunate circumstance? Could you just give us an example without obviously naming names? But what's the reality of one of these families? Like, what's their day to day? What's their actual
Yeah.
situation look like?
Yeah, so a lot of the parents that we talk to, so what we do is we have a giving time of year, and in January we actually meet these families
Yeah,
and we give, and so most of them, it's the reality is that say for example, dad's gotten sick.
yeah,
So the main income earner is not there,
yeah,
not able to provide, and also to just the rent, the increase in rent going up,
yeah,
they just don't have enough money to stretch to like they're just surviving
yeah.
on food, rent, and the necessities themselves,
Nothing
and
left.
then add in the school supplies at the beginning of the year. Plus,
Yeah,
they've got tech now to buy, which we
yeah,
didn't have to buy,
Yeah,
when we were
laptops and
younger.
yeah,
iPads and all of
Yeah.
that. The world's moved. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I had one mum, for example, she hadn't eaten for 3 days. She traveled from the Gold Coast down.
yeah,
And she was in a really bad place.
yeah,
And she said she was trying to save money so that she could afford the school supplies. And I said, just come here, we're going to give you food. I rang Lighthouse.
yeah,
And this is the great thing about our community is, we can, you know, reach out to other charities and lean on each other. So they gave food, we gave supplies, and just seeing the relief on her face that that it's like in a parent's shoes, sitting there and knowing I can't provide for my child, you know, to go to school. Like, yeah, it
it's pretty dismal if
Deflating.
it
Yeah.
you're
is.
foregoing food to try to,
Yes.
which is as parents, a lot of parents would resonate with that. That's like, yeah, that's quite full on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And birthday presents and things like that, you kind of go, okay, well, we can just reduce down, but school supplies you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. That they've got to have
It's
those
fixed
things to be
costs.
able to learn.
In
So
in my school, one thing I actually noticed, and I still remember my year 5 teacher at the time, actually out of her own pocket was buying school supplies
yeah,
for students. And she'd have her own stash there. So, if I came in and didn't have a pencil or whatever I needed, she would have stuff there for her students, which like great on her. Good, what a good thing to do. But it's not necessarily fair that she has to forego her income to cover that
exactly. And
as
that
well.
was the most common thing we heard was the teachers were taking out of their own pockets, and also the chaplains, trying to,
Yeah.
give to these children. So it's good to be able to, support knowing that, the teachers can focus on what they need to do, and, be able to help the parents and the families.
Yeah. So you mentioned the rent figures, like obviously the increases in rent. We've had
Yeah,
a bit of a interesting time with the economy the last few years in particular, particularly with housing. Do you see those changes directly impact these families?
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, because they just can't stretch the dollar any further, and they're already, you just hear, "Oh, my rent's gone up," and it's not just by $10, $20, it's gone up,
Yeah,
like a
sometimes
substantial
hundreds a
amount.
week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So they don't have these leftover, amount of money to be able to buy, just the simple things that we take for granted. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's so true. You have a power bill increase, the rent goes up by $80 a week, power goes up by $100 a quarter.
yeah,
Suddenly, you can't afford school books or the iPad or whatever's required to get
that's
the
right.
children to school, which is, directly affects, I guess, everyone at that line. It's fascinating to think about.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Going back to obviously the early days, and you mentioned the 100,000. Where does the charity sit today as far as number of schools helped and people involved? What does that look like today?
Well, we've been doubling every year. So, for example, I'll give you the stats for this year. So, in January, we gave over 80,000 school supplies. We gave to over 2,000 students, and were referred to by 69 organisations. So we are now getting a lot of organisations, and it's not just locally; it's around Australia now. We're getting a lot of requests saying, "Can you please help?" So the other charities are calling us and asking for support for their clients, and so we've worked out the figures are doubling every year. It's
phenomenal.
yeah.
What does it look like on the boots on the ground in terms of like the collaboration between different organizations? Because that's something I wouldn't have really necessarily thought of, but it's logical when you think about it that different organizations may be able to contribute to
Yeah.
different components to help. Like, what does that look like on a boots on the ground sort of
We,
approach?
yeah, well, we actually love collaborating with other charities. So, for example, we've got Fivefold and Lighthouse Care.
Yeah.
So, their families are in need.
Yeah.
And what we do is they're our distributors as well. So what we do is they reach out to their families and say, "Do you need help?" And instead of them reinventing the wheel of doing their own school supplies themselves, we say, "How we can support you guys, and you guys, give your families to us that
That's
need help."
and that's a
Yeah.
big piece of the puzzle. Like I can get my head around donations of supplies and they go to the people in need, or you receive funds and you purchase the supplies, or et cetera. That I can get my head around all of that. But how is it that you actually identify and get the supplies to the right people in need? Obviously collaborating with other charities is one
Yeah.
part of that, but what's some other ways that can happen?
Yeah, so we get a lot of the referrals. So
Yeah.
if they've already gone through that process, so say for example the Salvation Army,
Yeah.
or Child Protection Services,
Yeah.
any of those. So we take referrals, and even I've like through the week I've had a counsellor ring up and say I've got a family who's in need. They can just be referred to by them. So we've got many different referral, um, you know, like people that in the community that can actually do that, and agencies as well. And then, anyone that's got a blue card, we support. So we
Yeah.
do our checks
Yeah.
because we can't just give to everybody.
Yeah.
But, we'll give to those who we know who are in need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think speaking from personal experience, I just want people who are listening to get their head around, these organizations and charities and things like this do actually have a big impact on kids. I imagine, if you think of rather than the numbers and all of the 1 in 6, if you think of a specific example of a kid actually having their school supplies, how that changes that kid's year. And I know for me, some of those teachers that helped, or even things which I believe is a charity, which I didn't even know at the time, like Breakfast Club,
Right.
going to school, like in Logan, it's pretty common for primary and high schools
Correct.
where there's people who volunteer their time to provide kids breakfast, who may otherwise, like those things make a big difference.
Yes.
So how can people help? How can people give? What are some of the ways people can get involved if they're wanting to get involved?
Yeah, thank you. Well, if they've got any leftover school supplies, so your leftover books from last year that your child will never use again, please give them to us. So we recycle a lot of school supplies every year,
Yeah.
and we go from good secondhand to any brand new. So if you call into the shops and you grab a pack of pencils, anything helps
Yeah.
our families.
So there's no donation too small.
No, absolutely not. So, and we give. So we've got our giving year. We set up like a maze at the Bethania Community Centre,
Yeah.
and we've got like another one at the Gold Coast. And what we do is the children come in. They actually get to pick their own colour school bag because we love that
That's awesome.
they're able to pick their colours. And so they go around a maze and they get to pick what they need, and it sort of feels like they're doing their shopping,
Their own shopping.
but it's
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
And then we've got another giving table at the end that has got some extras. So if there is anything special, whatever that we sort of see,
Yeah.
they get to pick a couple of things from the the special giving table as well. So
Oh,
they can take that. But the books especially we need, and just the necessities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously the supplies and money are great ways for people to donate. But if someone wants to volunteer time, is that something that you need assistance with as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So we just opened up our volunteer days for January.
Yeah.
So we've got a whole week that we're collecting from the community. So we've collected, and then we count. We count every supply that comes in, and we sort it into their different things, like all the highlighters together and all the glue sticks together, and then we have our big giving days. So we have 2 days of giving at the centre, and the other distributors that we've got 7 distributors, they have their giving days as well.
Yeah.
But we also pack for those distributors. So we get the requests from the families of what they need, and we have volunteers actually packing for those children. So this year alone, we had 120 volunteers in 1 week, which was incredible.
That's a pretty phenomenal outturn
Yeah.
from the community, isn't it?
It was amazing. So,
That's fantastic. And one thing I'm always curious about, it's the light sensors. Sorry.
Lights, yeah.
So one thing I'm always curious about in your circumstances, obviously, it's a great cause. It's a charity we can get behind. Personally resonates with myself a lot, and obviously it does with a lot of people in the community. Hence the growth and the number of volunteers, which is great to hear. In your circumstance, you're a business owner, you're a mother, you have your own things going on, and you run this charity which is doubling each year.
Yes.
What does that look like logistically for you? That just sounds insane to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm often working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So, Sunday nights I'm working. I'm, like Sunday I was out, a beautiful place did a fundraiser for us. So I was out there, supporting them because they're supporting us. So, a lot of the time it's, there's a lot of volunteer hours, and the great thing is that I've got an amazing team as well. So we've got a board of 8 that we have, and they're just incredible people. So I couldn't do it without our board, and also we've got a committee.
Yeah.
And the committee is supporting as well. And we've got ambassadors, so young ambassadors that are supporting. So without all of their support, we couldn't do it without, the help and support from other people. And that's how it's been from the start. So, if we didn't have the support, it wouldn't happen as smoothly as it does. Yeah, but we've got some incredible people. So,
and I think it's a thing to sort of stop and actually take note of, like the amount of time and energy you're putting into it. The reality is that's another business. That's another avenue that you could be exploring, but instead you're choosing to dedicate your time towards helping kids in need, which you can't really, that's massive. You can't, not to be discounted. A lot of people have the thought about giving and they want to give. And, I know for me personally, it's always, not always, but it's been a situation where I've thought, oh yeah, and I want to have a bit more, I'll give.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily, you've sort of flipped that on its head. You've sort of just gone, no, I'll do what I can now. And you're obviously doing that. So I think what you said earlier about, there's no donation too small as well. People can get involved if they want to volunteer time, small donations help, leftover school supplies, things like that.
Exactly.
With the cause you can get around. And I think you yourself, that's a massive inspiration, like personally, how you've chose to set up your life and run your life with your businesses and the charity and your family and integrate all of that. What are some of the cool stories or positive things that you've seen or been a part of through doing the charity?
Like they even stem from the volunteers. So last Christmas, we had 2 volunteers met. One had no family. And in January, we heard that they spent Christmas together, and they had never met outside it. So it's not just the giving days. The giving days are both heartbreaking and just, like seeing the relief and the joy of the kids and the families, like that fills your cup. And you like when you're really tired and you feel exhausted, seeing those families just, lifts you up, and because you know that you're making a difference for them and the kids. But yeah, the stories over the years, like we've just had so many different things and different situations. A mum last year was living in a tent, 3 kids, and she had nothing. And we had Officeworks actually jumped in and said, I want to support. We reached out to them and they were amazing. And just seeing all of us, we're all hugging, and, like the mum was so grateful, and knowing that these kids that, would have had nothing, had some stuff. It's both this, it's heartbreaking, and at the same time, it's incredible to see other people getting involved and giving and lifting people up, and seeing that, that parent go from despair to hope, and, able to support their child again. That's the sort of stuff. And then, unless you volunteer, that stuff just lifts you,
It's
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis, which is something I actually hadn't even necessarily thought of, but some of the stuff that you'd sort of deal with would be heavy, but at the same time relieving that you're, I guess, doing something or contributing something to try and make a difference. How do you manage that? Because I imagine some of the sort of scenarios you might find yourself might be
Yeah, a bit
Yeah.
pretty
emotionally
full
burning.
on,
Yeah.
emotionally challenging at times, and you're just
Yes.
sitting there going, "This is a
Yes.
lot."
Oh,
Like,
well, it
how do you
was,
juggle
yeah,
that?
yeah. Well, last year it felt very heavy. Like there was a lot of heartbreaking stories, and I think just knowing that we're able to support, and we make it so we give the essentials. We can't fulfill every book list. What we try and do as a charity is stretch it out so we don't say no to one child. We want to be able to give them something to be able to go to school with, and that's the essentials. So what we try and do is, we say yes to every family that we can, that needs help, that we're able to say yes. So just knowing that, if I didn't have the supplies, I would be heartbroken myself. So, just knowing that we're able to support and go, hey, we've got you. We can help.
A little yes rather than a hard no. That would be a
Exactly.
challenging thing when you've
Yeah.
got limited resources and you're trying to work out how to divvy them up, and
Exactly.
everyone's in you know dire need.
Yeah.
That's
And
a challenging
we're
one.
just preparing for that. So we're preparing. So we've got some grants from our, some of the, community RSLs and things like that. So we've gone and bought the big items like a school bag, because that's, we need like 3,000 school bags this year.
Adds up to quite a bit of
Yeah,
money really
yeah.
quick.
Yeah, so we're making sure, so we're trying to do all of those fundraisers, and so just supporting any of those fundraisers at charities absolutely makes a difference, because that's where we're buying the school supplies, because 80,000 school supplies last year. We also had a bit of a downturn in the giving, so you've got to make up for that somewhere else. So that's why we're doing so many events, because we want to make sure that every child's got something they can go to school with, and that we're reaching those kids.
Out of curiosity, what would you say the blend is between, I guess, um, you know, volunteers or people that want to make donations? What would you say the contrast is between, I guess, direct cash to, say, for instance, contribute things such as like the school bags versus, I guess, families repurposing or donating extras in the local
Yeah,
community? What would you say the sort of general makeup would be?
it's probably so. Yeah, Probably we rely mostly on the donations.
Yeah.
The school supplies. I wouldn't say we rely on, but we have been given mostly donations. So when we first started, it was 100% donations unless Sam sold his calendars,
Yeah.
and that was about $1,000.
Yeah.
So you know yourself as a parent how much it costs your child to go to school, and just that expense, like
It's insane.
$1,000, didn't actually add up to much in the amount that we bought, but we tried to stretch that as much as we could. Now we're very fortunate. What we do is our COO, Kathy, is amazing. She looks at the donations that come in and then she places the order with Officeworks and we make up for it then. So any cash donations come in will actually lift up the supplies that we need.
So if you're like short on a particular item,
Yes.
that's what the cash goes towards.
Correct. Yeah. So it's really important we have that cash there so that we can, make up for if we run out of stock.
Yeah.
We're living at Officeworks and the other
Constantly.
stores.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially through the giving days, and we've got blue shirts like Officeworks. So through office, through the time of people are buying their school supplies, they often come up to us and ask us, "Can you help us?" But because we're living at Officeworks, shopping and buying, those extras, and and trying to stock up. So
I think a lot of our listeners are very much interested in wealth creation, property investment, how to optimize their finances, and I think it's a key part to have that factored in. Is what's your budget for giving? What are you going to do each year? What's your capacity that you can, without putting yourself in a uncomfortable position, what can you do to help these people in need? You mentioned businesses have been involved and helped with the charity as well, like Officeworks. You mentioned have been helping with there. How can business owners get involved to assist and help?
So that has been one of our main things is the business owners. So like Cube, they've got an adopter box. And just filling that up, like if you've got, if you go to the shop and you get some stock, and you throw in like some pens and anything like that, we use it. We give that. So you can do that. We've had businesses come in and volunteer time. So through the year, which has been great because we've got our shed of stock, and we do some counts through the year and things like that. So they can have an adopter box. We've had businesses hold a morning tea and raise funds. And the great thing too is any actual funds that we get, we're DGR, so we're tax deductible. So anything over $2 is tax deductible to the business.
Yeah.
So anything that comes through is of help, whether it's donation. You want to do like a team exercise. So we had a local business, locally to Cube, come in, and they actually helped us. We made some, different things, to help the charity. They helped, not only do our shed, but we actually did some other admin things that supported the charity, and we did some card making because we're doing a thing at the Hyperdome. It is incredible just having businesses just doing different things, even coming up with their own ideas of fundraising and doing something as a team together can make a difference for us. So
Okay, so you're open to collaborating with local businesses and
we love collaborating. Another little secret that hasn't come out yet is we actually have you would know that I own a networking group.
Yep.
We've actually given the networking group to the charity.
Wow.
So we're going to be able to have business owners network with a purpose, really.
Oh, wow. I love that.
So they can come along and we support them as well, like with collaborating and, referrals and, and ideas and things like that. But also too that we can, any money that goes to our memberships, is actually going to support directly to the charity. So we've been from the start with, that it's about collaboration and community. So bringing them together is good to, see come about. So that's going to start next year.
Yeah, I think it's a good way of getting like for like
Yeah,
business owners together as well, because if you sort of resonate and connect with the cause, then if we
correct.
have some similarities to work together
100%.
as well.
Yeah.
Bit of a change of pace and something I've been curious about. Obviously, working in finance, bit of a nerd when it comes to the ins and outs of how things work. What does it actually look like logistically to run a charity? What is
Logistic.
what
It,
is the admin? What's involved with the setup? What are the legal requirements? I've
yes.
heard of some examples of certain charities where I've heard of 98% of the donated funds have been repurposed into getting more donated funds, and you kind of think, that sucks. I mean, I
Yes.
don't love that percentage.
Yeah.
What does it actually look like on your end?
Yeah. Well, being a business owner myself,
Yeah.
so the very first difference is we're governed by the ACNC. So we've got a governing body, and so as a charity, we run the charity to their guidelines.
Yeah.
So we've actually got a board. So we can't just say, "Hey, I'm going to go and buy, this mic set that you've got,"
Yeah.
without our running through our whole board as approval.
Yeah.
So that's one of the differences, seeing that. So everything that we spend money on is run through the board, and we've got, 8 eyes looking over all the funds going out,
Yeah.
where it's going, and who it's going to. So that's the difference between a business owner can just go and, pay for and buy whatever they need.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like a governing body that, we're not only responsible to our, as a board, we're responsible for the people donating. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure. So, for example, today, the Greenbank RSL gave us $5,000.
So
So,
Greenbank RSL.
yeah,
Let's go.
Greenbank RSL gave us $5,000. So I purchased, I think it was 540 backpacks with a company, and so I've sent them a receipt to show them that money's gone directly. It's $5,000 worth of backpacks. You've supported over 540 children with that donation. So every donation that we're given, we are accountable to make sure that that's given to those who need it. So, it's not to pay our wages. It's
Yeah.
not, we've got no employees on the books. We've got all volunteers. So our money and everything that we do is governed by a head body, but it's also, our board that looks over that, and we're responsible to, our donors.
I think
Yeah.
that's an awesome point that you sort of touch on, because that's part of my restraint. Like I've in regards to giving, is you sort of see where the dollars go and where they're nominated
100%.
to, and I go, well, I want to do something. It's
Causes hesitation
the
for sure.
Yeah.
the cause is there, and you
Yeah.
can justify, though that's a terrible situation, but there's this reluctance where it's like, is there just a corporate control that none of the funds go to where they're needed?
Yeah, I look at those charities, and there's other ones that are actually, we are very conscious that we are never going to be like that. Even so, we did a 10-year strategic plan, and that is one of our core things, is
Yeah.
that we are going to make sure that every dollar that we get is going to go to those who need it. So we're going to stretch that as much as we can. Like I said, even the donations that we get, we're very conscious of, in making sure that every child is getting something. And as we're expanding, so we've got the Gold Coast now, we've got out at Ipswich, we've got 2 big organisations that we're supporting their families and giving out there now. We're very conscious that we want to be able to reach those communities as well and support them. So every dollar that comes in and going forward, we want to make sure that it's to our recipients. That's what the charity is. So
Yeah. I think it makes it so much easier to get behind, knowing that that's the case, and a charity is actually operating as a charity and
Yeah, I'm definitely not the CEO on, $300,000. I can assure you that.
Yeah. You're out there petitioning the community for money for a cause, and then
Yeah.
it just gets distributed to God knows where, and none of
Yeah.
the funds end up in the right cause, which is really an intention and a cause I guess people can get
Absolutely.
behind,
Yeah.
particularly at this time of year.
Yeah, that's right. And all of our documents, all of our spending is all on the ACNC website.
yeah,
So you can actually look at different charities on there and you can see the financial documents and how it's distributed and who gets what. And, we've seen some people putting, some things in spots that you just go, well, that's not right.
yeah,
But yeah, no, we are about transparency, and with all of us, majority of the board has business background.
yeah,
So we are very conscious of where that money is going to, and making sure that it's going to those who need it.
yeah.
Fantastic. Look, it's unless you've got something else that you want to
I was
touch
just going
on.
to say, is there any other particular points you want to touch on, Tanya? Anything else that you want to mention while you're here?
No, I just want to thank Cube Home Loans, because you guys have actually supported us from the beginning, and that's been in a variety of ways, like coming to golf and playing golf,
Losing.
and yeah, well, losing.
From the wooden spoon, that's all right.
Yeah. So even those things, and like you give coffee to the people that are, at our golf day, like those sorts of things make a huge difference. And we've had scent auctions, and you've given some vouchers and things like that. Anything like that makes a huge difference for us, and it's really noticed. And you've got an adopt a box, like you just support us in so many ways, and even getting us to come in today, we really appreciate it. And it does make a difference to our families in the long run. And I'd love to, like, the businesses don't actually get to see what impact that's made, but I just want to assure you that it is so appreciated, and from the families that benefit from that in the end, to thank you guys, because any businesses that support community like you guys do is, it makes a difference.
And I think if we can, people listening and myself and others, if we can follow a little bit more in your example, even in a small way, donate what we can when we're able to, even in as a small amount, rather than sort of thinking of this big future donation you're going to make at one point. Even just start small, incorporate it into
Absolutely.
into your way your business or your personal household operates, and donate time if that's all you have available. It all helps. And to hear those stories about how it actually impacts those families,
Yeah.
really brings that home even more. And to hear about you personally, what you sacrifice and how much you dedicate and your volunteers and the board and the people who volunteer and the ambassadors and the kids that get involved, to hear all of that energy, it just really motivates me to honestly to do more. Like sometimes, um, sometimes with myself, you get your blinkers on, you're worried about your business, and we're doing this and we're hitting this goal, and all those things are great. But it's good, especially this time of year, to take a step back and reflect about those in need and do what you can. And I'm, we're going to make a donation from myself and Bart from this podcast and from Cube as well. But I encourage others to do the same, even if it's in a small way. And so follow your lead in what you do. I think it's
Mm.
massive, Tanya. I think it's it's huge.
Well, that's it.
Yeah, that's really touching. Thanks, Nevada.
If you've I guess you're a business owner and you've had a good year this year, there's some people out there that could do with a helping hand, and that might mean a direct, I guess, contribution in terms of time, or
Tax
maybe
deductible.
coming up with a tax deductible deduction, and there's a real benefit that it goes to. If you're locally in the community and you've got just time as your capacity, reach out and try and contribute something in your own way, because it really goes the distance. And I think it's making a difference out there to provide some dignity for some families in needs, and have a direct impact with the cost of living crisis. So thanks so much for coming along.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tanya.